Good afternoon, I'm Milton Walker with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. Attorney for CMU President Professor Fritz Pinnock, Hugh Wildman, this morning again asked the court to dismiss the charges against his client. Mr. Pinnock and former Education Minister Ruel Reid, his wife Sharon, their daughter Sharelle, and counsel for the Brownstone Division, Kim Brown Lawrence, made their second court appearance this morning. In court today, Mr. Wildman challenged the legality of the charges against his client. He argued that his client was charged by the FID officers who have no basis to institute any criminal charges against anyone. The accused will return to court on April 8. We'll have more on this story in primetime news at 7. Jamaica fell 4 places on the 2019 Corruption Perception Index. The country is now ranked 70 out of 180 countries. This has placed Jamaica's score at the global average of 43%. In the region, Bahamas, Barbados, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dominica and St. Lucia all ranked above 50. Financial expenditure for crime-fighting measures was scrutinized at Wednesday's sitting of Parliament's Public Administration and Appropriations Committee, the PAAC. Increased expenses are being projected as there is no end in sight for states of emergency operations. More in this report.
Listing crime as the greatest challenge facing the country, PAAC members questioned representatives of the Jamaica Constabulary Force about expenditure for the current fiscal year. According to JCF's Director of Budget and Finance, Devon Cahoon, the state of emergency is expected to cost Jamaica $525 million for the 2019-20 fiscal year.
That December 2019 total expenditure was approximately $392 million.
The cost includes an increase in meals and day-to-day setup for the measure. But committee member Mikhail Phillips questioned specific financial increases for state of emergency and other operations.
How much is it that you're expecting to spend on meals for the financial year by up to the end of the financial year outside of the state of public emergency?
Projections outside of the state of emergency for meals, we're looking at approximately $85 million. But then that's just a rough estimate because that's totally up to the operational side and what may be required.
What is generally budgeted for it?
What
like
is previous
financial year?
What you're seeing here is consistent, 45 million. That's what is usually budgeted.
So we're basically doubling up.
But member Phillips queried what he believed to be inconsistencies with the doubling of some costs, namely food and accommodation, compared with a smaller increase in fuel costs.
And I'm just making the observation. That if your other costs have gone up and you're doing more operations, then I would expect that your fuel costs would go up because the men have to reach to us to a location.
So I'm saying to you that I don't know that we can make that distinction when it pertains to fuel. I don't know that we can say that this fuel was consumed in the state of emergency or outside the state of emergency, because it's universal.
The committee also questioned discussions about legislative changes that promise to give the security forces the necessary powers to operate without the extremes of a state of emergency.
As it is now in the Constabulary Force Act and in the Constitution, there is some prescription as to how long the detention is supposed to take place.
So, Mr. Bailey, you're saying that after 2 years, you have not yet arrived at a set of proposals, legislative proposals, to deal with those provisions. Is that what you're saying now?
I'm saying that it's still being settled. There's something on the table, but it is still being settled.
For 2 years now, it's still unsettled.
Yes.
Is that so, yes or no?
I would accept that in light of the process, how it operates. We have to consult with the Attorney General and Chambers. We have to consult with the Office of the Chief Parliamentary Counsel.
The Firearm Licensing Authority, the FLA, says it's working closely with the Jamaica Constabulary Force to reduce the number of illegal guns in the country. Corporate Communications Officer at the Firearm Licensing Authority, Michaela Heidel, says the entity is often called upon to assist the police in determining if firearms are registered. Speaking on Smile Jamaica this morning, Mr. Heidel explained that its ballistic machines are used to make the necessary checks on firearms.
I will make sure that we have the machines at hand that we can carry the ballistics checks. So we have the brass check machine, which at any given time you may feel that someone has an illegal weapon. We have the ballistics available to check and make sure that this weapon is either in our system, registered as a legal firearm, or it may come up as an illegal firearm.
Right.
And Mr. Heidel was speaking yesterday on Smile. There's a call this afternoon for more parents to do more to keep their children on the right path to prevent them being lured by gangs. Principal of the Spanish Town High School, VENTLEY Brown, says this can be done through early intervention at home. Speaking at the Area 5 devotion in the St. Catherine North Division on Tuesday, Mr. Brown said parents need to provide for their children, especially those in the inner cities. He says schools cannot be held responsible for students entering gangs.
The task of operating schools in the 21st century, especially schools in inner city areas, it's not easy. Schools like mine would have produced maybe some of the most famous named dons in this town. And the Jonathan Grants, the Inzwoods, the Eltham, all of them. But it is not our role. And our main function is to provide men and women for society so that your jobs can be easier as police officers.
Mr. Brown also commended the police for seeking divine intervention. He said it's important in a time when many criminals are seeking alternative ways to work against the law.
I have students who come to school on a daily basis who wear their guard rings. And I tell them that rings are not allowed. And they say, Mama, say if I take it off, I go dead. I say, well, I go dead today. And the person who owns Morgan's funeral home is my good friend. I'll let you get a good deal at the funeral. And those rings are removed and they're still alive. So the criminals of society are seeking all sorts of ways to work against the law-abiding forces. So there's nothing wrong if the police continue to call on divine intervention.
And it's time for a break, but stay with us. Much more stories after the break. Welcome back. Continuing the news. A police constable is being treated in hospital after he was mowed down this morning during a traffic stop in New Kingston. It's understood that the constable assigned to the Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement branch suffered injuries to his legs. It's reported that the driver of a Toyota Wish motor car was signaled to stop at the intersection of Worthington and Trafalgar Roads. He disobeyed and hit the policeman before speeding away. The police are seeking the public's help to locate the vehicle with license plate PP6379. That's a black Toyota Wish, PP6379. They say the occupants resisted multiple attempts to catch them. A KNUTSFORD Express bus ran off the road this morning in Middle Quarter, St. Elizabeth. The bus was heading towards Negril when the incident occurred. It's not clear what happened, but it's understood that no one was injured. Passengers on the bus explained what happened.
You know, so me know the bus do, and all of a sudden me see the bus are going in a lane there. I say, from JBC? I say how the bus are going in the lane. And when me look, me see hit on the bunking, lit the bunking, swing so we do, and see there, right over there, so I can end up.
It seems like the driver, when he came here, he took the corner too wide, and he missed the control, because I was the one who sit beside him in the front seat. So I actually see everything that happened. You know what I mean? But I just pray to God that when I see it least like this, I say, Father, please don't let it turn over. Because if it turn on the side, we'd have casualty. You know? But for God's sake, it just leave it here.
Why? Terrified. I tell you so terrified, bad. Because me look a honeymoon, me I go and this going to happen right now. Feel away. Right now, turn me one back. I go home. I now continue the journey.
The National Solid Waste Management Authority, the NSWMA, has rolled out a pilot project to encourage citizens to practice recycling. As you'll hear in this report, the project requires citizens to separate their garbage.
Separating household garbage. It's what the National Solid Waste Management Authority, NSWMA, wants citizens to start practicing. It's part of the authority's effort to promote recycling activities across the country. Public relations specialist at the NSWMA, Kimberly Blair, says for now, the agency will be providing biodegradable bags to help with the transition.
We have our crews going around sensitizing persons as to the project and taking those who are willing and ready to participate. And then we hand them these bags and tell them that this is the bag that you will get to put plastics only. All plastics. It's 100% degradable. And the householders will put the plastics in these bags and we collect them twice monthly.
But will the same truck that collects non-recyclable garbage be responsible for collecting the plastics as well?
It's a different truck that will come in. So we have the dates as well, the collection dates for the plastics, and we have sensitized the residents as to the collection dates. So it's not the same truck coming to collect these plastics.
The project has already started in 12 communities in northern St. Andrew. NSWMA Executive Director AUDLEY Gordon says the response so far has been positive.
We are very optimistic, Neville. We believe that the pilot will be very successful. We have seen the excitement in our own offices, the staff. Right now we have people out there, it says that kind of frigid morning, but they're out there distributing bags, talking to people. Good. And people are just generally excited. The householders are welcoming us. They're happy to play their part. And we believe that, it's a small investment to be made in the environment, and they will do it. We are positive.
Herman Green, TVJ News.
The Agriculture Minister AUDLEY has announced plans to both prevent and control the spread of plant pests across borders. He noted that over the last 15 years, there were at least 9 new pests which have affected the agricultural sector. TVJ's Andrew Laidley reports.
Speaking during the launch of the International Year of Plant Health in Jamaica on Thursday, Agriculture Minister AUDLEY says Jamaica's ability to produce crops continue to be plagued by pests outbreak. He says some of the crops affected are major income earners for farmers and the country.
Locally, we now have a green paper for our national seed policy. This piece of legislation, when finalized, will ensure clean seeds are put into production. We are modernizing the Plant Quarantine Act to make it more comprehensive to deal with the matters of protection and quarantine, and soon Jamaica will have a modern Plant Health Act in line with international standards.
He also announced that as of February 1, disinfectant mats will be installed at airport to reduce the risk of plant and animal pests entering the country.
So that is disinfectant maps, so that, for instance, if somebody goes to Colombia and pick up that disease on their shoes, come to the airport at Norman Manley, effective February 1, we are having disinfectant mats that you have to wipe your shoe on as you're coming into our island.
In addition, he reminded farmers that they too have a role to play in healthy plant production.
I'm calling upon our farmers and horticulturalists to protect your crops, to use the best agricultural practices to ensure healthy pest-free production. Prune your trees and plants and call upon your extension officers if you need help.
Mr. Shaw also revealed that the ministry is working with the Mexican government and the Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF, on an agriculture canine program to help reduce the number of unauthorized plants and crops being smuggled into the country. Andrew Laidley, TVJ News.
In sports, the West Indies topped Group B with maximum 6 points after recording a massive 246-run win over Nigeria in their final group game at the ICC Under-19 World Cup in South Africa today. Batting first, the West Indies posted 303 for 8 from their 50 overs. Captain Kimani Milos, with 65, got the Caribbean side off to a good start, adding 70 runs for the first wicket with Leonardo Julian, who made 18. Matthew Patrick top scored with 68, while Joshua James had 43. Kevlon Anderson, 25, and Jamaican KIRK McKenzie, 15, also got starts, along with Antonio Morris, 17, but failed to carry on. 3 Nigerian bowlers ended with 2 wickets each. In reply, Nigeria were bowled out for just 57 runs. Jaden Seals was once again impressive, bagging 4 for 19, while Ashmead Ned claimed 2 for 11. This was the West Indies' third biggest victory in the history of the Under-19 World Cup. And that's the Midday News. I'm Milton Walker. Join us again at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, good afternoon.